Yep. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow, the wind is picking up. Welcome to the first episode of the Asoluka podcast. Obviously, my name is Chidi Asoluka, and I am a teacher and dean here in New York City. And the hope of this podcast is to interview creators, thinkers, educators, people that are interested in making things in this world and try to figure out how they got to where they are, from their origin stories, from their point A, and talking about point Z, and all the different challenges that happened in between there to get to where they are. And, you know, it's a pretty ambitious podcast. I hope to have a whole bunch of people on here. And to kick things off, in the very first podcast, I'm so happy to have my wife, Ofunne, with us today. And we're just going to talk about where she is and where she wants to go and her story. She's a lawyer and she's writing, and so I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself. So
Sure.
Go ahead.
My name is Ofunne. I am Chidi's wife. I like to say that I am a lawyer by day and an artist by heart. So my day-to-day is the lawyer by trade. I went to law school and all of that. And art is something that I think I was always gifted with. And it's a form of self-expression. And something that I would do if I was not paid to do it.
So you have written a novel.
I have. And I'm literally putting the final dot on the last I. And it's called, tentatively called The Herdsman. And it is set in the future, modern society, and the short of it is that it's a story about a young girl who is burdened by hate and fear, and as we follow her through her journey as she learns to harness the literal power and force of love.
Wow. And so what was the inspiration for this story?
So I think the book really wrote itself, and I don't think I knew what I was writing when I first started taking on this big task, but I had just graduated from law school, and I was living with two girls at the time. One of them was my really good friend from law school, and she loved to read. She was reading a young adult novel that was really popular back then, and we had a lot of downtime on our hands, and so I, asked her to lend me the book. So I read the book, and as I was reading it, I remember thinking, I used to write a lot. I did. I was writing little mini novellas since I was 14, 15, and I would write them and I'd tuck them away, and I kind of stopped creating once I got to law school. And I started thinking, it sparked something in me again, I could do this. Maybe I should write again. And then one day, still in that time zone, I was driving down the street, and I remember I was listening to a song, and I remember seeing this image of a girl, and she was walking somewhere. She was in black battle gear, and she had two swords strapped to her back, and she was going to this battle, and it was raining, and she looked really defeated, and she was walking with heavy footsteps, and I knew she did not want to go face this battle she had to fight. And so I wanted to tell a story around that. And so when I started writing the book, I knew that I wanted this scene to be, the scene towards the end, what battle this girl would have to face. And so from there, the book was kind of born.
So, wow, that's pretty amazing. I'm interested in the idea of battle. And how would you define a battle?
My gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's the literal battle, which is, the day-to-day wars and war zone. And I think maybe that's probably the thing that comes to people's mind when we talk about battle. But then there's literally the day-to-day, internal battles we all face. I know it's like corny or cheesy to say like there's the good guy on your shoulder, the bad guy on the other shoulder, and it's an internal war each day. But it really is like there's so many conflicts that arise within us, whether it's like the battle over insecurity, the battle to push back against revenge, and that's an internal conflict that my main character faces because she lives in this very oppressed village, and every day she wants to seek revenge because it's kind of this natural human thing, and so at the end of the day, you want, if there is an internal battle, you want the best of you to come out of it. So you want the good to win. You want the light to shine through. So we each have little battles every day that we face, and it's like about, what it is you want to be in the end, what kind of person you want to be, and that'll determine.
And how do you win? How do you define a victory?
It depends on what the battle is, right? So, okay, so for me, one of the things I went through a lot in the last maybe 15 years of my life, and I went from being this really bright, bubbly, super social like person to suddenly feeling really closed off to the world, and anxiety set in, and things that were like super easy for me before started to becoming difficult, and so then I was on this journey where it was like trying to find the light part in me, like it was a default before, but now it's like you have to work at it.
Yeah.
And so victory for me was going from trying to run people over the road in LA traffic to being zen on your, a year later, you're zen, you're letting people in, you're like listening, you're you may not be laughing the entire journey to work, but you're suddenly like a changed person. To me, that's victory. That's a huge victory.
Yeah.
And it can be like, you're able to be in social gatherings again, where before you were closed off, or you're able to let love in, where 3 months ago you couldn't, and you're speaking better when 3 months ago you were, shut off from the world and you couldn't, your tongue was tied. It just little things. It's like little steps each day, and I think you have to celebrate the small victories, and then you'll realize the bigger picture. Like years later, sometimes.
I'm actually a question. It's dangerous because you are married to me.
Okay. Do I tell truth?
Do you think you're winning right now?
Oh, winning in what, life? Okay, so how do I answer this? Okay, so I don't even winning, I'm hashtag winning, okay. But I will say this. So, just celebrated a birthday, and I'm not 25. When I was 25, I remember turning 25 and panicking, because I was like, I'm not anywhere near where I thought that I wanted to be. I was in a job that I didn't love. I couldn't see where my future was going. Every day was a struggle for me. I definitely wasn't close to having a family. Like, none of the things you think you're supposed to have at 25. I was nowhere near it, so I panicked. And then this last birthday I just had in February, I was like, everything had fallen into place. Like, my career is still I'm in the works of trying to really get it to the heights that I want it to be, but I feel like I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
I'm creating again, and I'm basically done with this huge undertaking novel that I didn't realize how big it was going to be to do.
Right.
And then you stepped into my life, my little dashing prince on a white horse or white car. And it just all obviously thanks to God, a lot of the things that fell into place came because of God. So it was all synced in, so that by the time I hit my age, it was, I don't know, it's great. It was just great. I can't take credit for half the stuff that is coming from.
Interesting. So I'm going to hold that. I know that spirituality, God is a major definer in your life, and is so I definitely it is winning. It's okay. It's okay. We're doing it.
Okay.
We're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a good topic. So we're not going to let the wind destroy it.
Or my hair. Okay.
Or your hair. Okay. All right. The hair looks great.
Thanks.
All right. Law.
Mm-hmm.
You went down that path, and you are on that path.
Uh-huh.
How'd you get there? What was point A for you?
Ooh, point A was, and this is why I feel like some people, you just got to live a purpose-driven life. So it was in the 8th grade, and my homeroom teacher, there were 2 homeroom teachers. I ended up in the class of this woman who I didn't know it at the time, but she did a mock trial every year, and I was in Colorado at the time, and we would try this fake criminal case in front of a real judge in downtown Denver. And so I remember her reading the fact pattern, and as she's reading it, I'm thinking, oh my God, this guy is totally guilty. Like, I have to be on the prosecuting team. And so I am like, I was one of the 3 or 4 people on the prosecution team. We took it so seriously, and we tried the case before the judge. We lost on every single count except for like 1 count. Literally boo-hooing tears after this because we were so committed to this like fake criminal thing.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I was like, I'm gonna be a lawyer. So I decided in the 8th grade to go to law school. Obviously, art was always a big thing in my life too, and so there was like this little lawyer or maybe being an artist. I ended up going to law school, and then I pivoted away from criminal law because there were some defects in the criminal law system, and I didn't know if I could handle being a part of that. And I'm now a civil litigator.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And what is that? What is that?
Basically, like the courtroom drama stuff you see on, I think, like shows like, I don't know, Suits. I don't watch actual law shows because I think they're far-fetched. But defending companies in lawsuits, so doing the courtroom stuff, just less fancy, I guess. Than shows.
Yeah. Okay, so you had a dream to be a lawyer from your class from school, and then you decided in 8th grade to go to law school.
Yeah.
You're in law school. What was that like?
Gosh. Okay, so the truth. So law school was horrible, if I may say it. It was, I started it when I was 20, so I couldn't really go out. Like, I couldn't, and all my friends would go out, and I would study a lot. And I was away from family, everybody I knew, because it was the first time I moved to LA, so it was like brand new. It was tough, and you study all the time, and I was like trying to figure out myself, and I just found it tough. I took it very seriously. And it was tough for me. It was a tough time. But not all law school experiences are like that.
Yeah. What would you say is the most challenging part of law school in general? And did you find, did you find that, again, I'm curious about how the dream that in 8th grade, did it kill the dream? Did it amplify the dream? Did it change the dream?
The dream shifted. So from the 8th grade, I thought I was going to be a criminal prosecutor, meaning crimes, and I was going to put away the bad guys. So you get to law school, and then the first year, it's a 3-year program. First year, I decided I would not. So the dream got altered immediately because I didn't want to be part of criminal.
Yeah.
And so when I got there, I don't know if I remember thinking, oh my God, my lifelong dream, here I sit at the throes of everything. It was still school because you go to college, you study a lot, and you go to law school and you school and you study a lot the same way, but you study a lot more. And then it's more competition. Everybody there is smart. Kids from privileged backgrounds, unprivileged backgrounds are there too, but I mean, everybody there is smart. So you're not like just the only one out here like, yeah, I'm used to getting straight A's. Yeah, so is everybody else. And so now you're pitted against each other. So now you have to compete. There's a sense of competition. And I think that's where like that whole competition thing was born. Now you're pitting yourself against another person. Then you don't know if you're as smart as you thought you were. Then your self-confidence gets depleted. You have to learn to respect yourself and not put so much of who you are based it on grades or ranking and all these other things that don't matter.
Yeah. So what was your coping? How did you cope?
I didn't. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that was when I started doing my nosedive. But it was also spiritual. It's a whole nother story. Because life is 2 things. It's like the physical walk and it's the spiritual walk. So I think that the battles with everything started then. And so it was like, I didn't even think I knew I was tanking until years later when, someone later tried to diagnose me with anxiety. And I was like, okay, so I've been going on a path that wasn't like the healthiest,
Yeah.
And then that's when like the spiritual came in and really helped me find the light again, I would say.
Talk about that.
God, it's a whole journey. Okay, so I guess I was always raised like Christian, like a lot of I think people I knew are, and so I'd always believed in God and. But then I went through all this times in my life, and some of it predated law school actually, and there's some personal things, and then they all compounded with law school, and then your life starts going in ways where you're thinking, Mayday, Mayday, like abort, abort. And so I thought, oh, okay, this is a sign that God hates me, and so yeah, all right, fine, we'll separate, we'll go our separate ways, and we'll live life as is. And so I kind of questioned a lot of things about God and spirituality, and times just got rougher and rougher and rougher. And then one day, I don't know if it's one day, but like a series of peculiar events, I keep saying, like, just started happening. And I ended up going to a couple of churches where the people are pretty prophetic. And then, God started showing up in my life. So I started hearing from God. I started realizing that, like, really life really was a spiritual walk. God really is. And then it was like, it was like you get into a relationship where, like, you and God become, like, more in tune. And so then paths become clearer, like, oh, like, I think around that time you were coming into my life, so it was easier to, like, know, that there's certain kind of relationships you have to treat differently, and, like, what steps you need to take in your career, what steps you need to take when you're writing a novel, what is the novel about? And I realized that when I finished writing the story with this girl, that she was also on a spiritual / physical, like, walk. And so, yeah.
Wow. And so you graduated from law school. You are, I guess the spiritual awakening happened much after graduating, or did it happen?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Much after. So let's talk about that time in between. So now you graduated, and you had kind of an unorthodox, like, transition out of law school. So you can talk about that.
Yeah. So I graduated from law school. I didn't really have, and it was in the recession, so didn't have a big paying firm job. But then I went to a good, like, top 20 law school. So that's what you do. You go to a big firm right after.
Yeah.
And I didn't have one of those, and so I was kind of like doing part-time research and then part-time retail, like straight up retail, just to, like, try to make ends meet, because I didn't want to, like, have to fall back on family and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and actually, that was like one of my first taste dose of God, because I remember there was a time when I couldn't find a job, and I. This is gonna sound so absurd, but I should have known back in the day. So I had to buy a bed, and so we went to the local, like, furniture store, and they're like, "Oh, you can get this bed for however amount. You don't even have to make a payment for X amount of months. You don't even have to put any money down. But once this date starts, we'll start hitting you up with interest and all the stuff we do." And I remember thinking, okay, and I kind of picked up my Bible at the time. I was maybe, like, dabbling again. And I remember I was reading Matthew at the time, and the one thing that resonated was faith. And so I said, okay, all right, God, like, if you're in this, and this, like, this thing really is faith, like, I believe that I will be able to pay off this entire bed. Meanwhile, I didn't even really have, like, the greatest of jobs. I had to pay rent. I had to pay this bed. It's like, talk about come a long way.
Yeah.
And, like, if you were really there, I'm gonna pay off this bed before this interest starts kicking in, so I don't have to call anybody. And I believed it. And after that, I was like, I'm gonna do it. And I believed it. And come the time, a few weeks before, I had just randomly submitted my resume. I always submit my resume. Nobody was biting. And I submitted it randomly, no cover letter. Anyways, everything started happening and falling into place. They called me, I got the interview, got the job. First paycheck came right on time for me to pay that bed off clean, like straight. And so I was like,
yeah,
okay, I never forgot that moment.
Yeah.
But there were still so many more rocky things that happened after. That job ended up being, oh God, talk about somebody whose self-esteem was already depleting because of things like it was not a situation that I should have been in. I ended up quitting it a year in because the partner was there's a high turnover, let's just put it that way. And then more jobs that were not really feeding my security level. I ended up having to move home to Texas. And it was actually during this move home to Texas, I was studying for the Texas bar because I wasn't licensed in Texas, that I decided to start taking writing lessons. And so when I was in Texas, there was like a retirement home out there. It was not a retirement home, that's not right. But I feel like it was a bunch of ladies who were retired.
Yeah.
It was at the Women's Institute.
Yeah.
And I remember I thought about this scene in this book, and I thought, okay, well, while I'm waiting for my bar test results to come out, let me start taking this class. And I took my very first writing class when I was in Texas.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how was that writing class? What was that like?
It was interesting. I had never taken a writing course before I decided to write a novel. Like, who does that? So, it was interesting. The teachers were actually writers themselves, and it was a male, a woman, and a man, and they wrote as one name under one pen name. And so I wrote my very first scene that ended up not making it into the final version of this novel because my character changed over time. But it was good. I feel like when I would write, people thought that I had a natural talent. So even if they were small things, they would always say like good things about my writing. So it was very encouraging. Like, okay, maybe I can do this. I can do this.
Do you remember the first piece of feedback you got? Like what did they say exactly? Do you remember?
No, that was so many years ago. This is like I'm talking. Maybe 2011. Yeah, 2011 or so.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember, but I do remember it was just more positive. And I just remember feeling confident in that class that I could do it.
Yeah. Interesting. So you go back home and then you get the job offer at a really big law firm.
Oh yeah. So I never thought, I was like, I'm not going back to LA. LA was like way too much stress, way too much like hard times. Like I'm not going back there. And of course, God was like, I got this random call from someone about a job in Orange County, and so I ended up taking the position. And I did pass the Texas bar, and like 2 months later, I got the call. I ended up back in California,
and how's
and
that?
then a few years later, I ended up at another firm in LA, and yeah, the journey continued.
And how's that been? I mean, you're still there, so how's that going?
It's going good. So in there, my full-on spiritual thing happened back in LA, and I think that's where I needed to be. And kept writing and just kept writing and kept writing. I actually took some more classes at the Santa Monica College, then took some online classes at UCLA, and it was really interesting. Living life, learning spiritual things, writing a book, learning how to write a book at the same time, and self-teaching and rewriting.
Yeah, so you hustled.
It was. There were times when I was working in Orange County at a law firm. I mean, you have to. I mean, being a lawyer is not a sleeper job.
No,
you got to work.
No.
And then, but feeling so like, I don't know what it was. It was like this grudging need to feed my art. And so even when I would have a bad day, I was like, you know how people work out. I was like, I need to go there. So I would drive an hour and a half to go to Los Angeles to take this class in Santa Monica, 2 hours, and then drive back.
Wow.
Again, because, and sometimes I would do it twice a week because I was so invested in this.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah.
How do you balance? I mean, it seems like the world of law, the world of fiction writing are two different worlds. I mean, one is rooted in like the fact, literally what's on the page, and the other one is this kind of fantasy world. And how do you balance the two? Do they inform each other? Does one world allow you to better do the other?
They're different in certain ways. So, litigation, you write a lot, and a lot of cases are won and lost on the papers. Like, you go in there, you give your arguments, but let's be frank. What they don't tell you in the stories is that it's what you wrote that the judge is really leaning on. So legal writing is different, obviously, because you can't make stuff up. In the novel, you can just be like, oh, I thought about this, and this is what's going to be in the scene. But you're stuck with the facts. But it doesn't mean you can't be creative. Like, I feel like my most successful motions sometimes are the ones where you can tell a story. So, yes, this is the facts, but tell a story. This is the story.
Mm-hmm.
And the judges are humans too, and they want to be entertained. And I mean, not that they want to be entertained, but
Right.
you're going to spark something in them if you can tell them in a way where they can read it and follow it so easily.
Right.
And so that me being able to hone my creative writing skills helps with my legal writing.
Right. All right. And now you're in New York.
Yes.
What's that about?
It's cold.
It's really cold.
Like in LA, we're like, oh, it's cold, and we're like wearing cute little boots, and like, but no, like
It's cold, right?
This is actually cold.
What about what's New York? Why New York? Why are you? I mean,
okay. You. Well, I'm moving here for you. You know that. I lost the straw battle.
You did.
But New York's great because I never thought I would want to live here. But it is what I was thinking. It's like it's a hub for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's multicultural. The food is bomb. People are out here creating. They're out here doing things.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. What would you say? What would you want to import from LA to New York? Not the weather. I mean, obviously that's obvious.
I was like the weather.
But is there something from LA would you want to import to New York City?
Besides the weather,
I don't think I know the answer to this question, actually, so it's interesting.
I don't know the answer either. What would I want to import? It's going to be something, because I feel like right now I really like the essence of New York, so there's nothing I can say about LA except for like some corny, like newer buildings and wider streets.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. We do have narrow streets. Not as narrow as Philadelphia, but definitely narrow. How have you been navigating your job? I mean, you just are now in New York now, and your job's in LA, and now you're married to a man who lives in New York. Like, how are you? Like, what is going on?
Well, I'm not living in New York.
All right, IRS.
I live in Los Angeles. I am a legal resident of Los Angeles. But I do come try if I can, obviously to come.
Yeah.
Stay here as much as my docket allows. It is an interesting hustle. But God. So I have like the grace where I can travel without having to pay for every flight. And so I've been doing that. I have the ability to work remotely. So if I don't have to be physically in court, I can draft a motion anywhere. So that's great.
Yeah, that's great.
I can just do that here.
Yeah.
And some court appearances you can do by phone.
Yeah.
So what was the question?
Yeah. What
was the question?
How are you navigating?
Oh yeah. So I'm navigating it fine. Actually, it's kind of nice being bi-coastal, in LA and New York. So I'm navigating it okay. It would be nice at some point where there's a finality to it. It's not bad. But then the only thing is like if you, like your sleep patterns, you get used to one, you get used to another.
Yeah. Yeah. Me personally,
how are you navigating it?
I know. It's kind of like therapy. I don't. It is what it is. And I am, and we've talked about this off camera about. I'm more like you get to the mushy things. Like love language is like I like quality time, and so that's tough when your spouse is living in LA.
Across the country.
But recently, it's been the way we've arranged it is it doesn't feel that way. I feel like you've been here more often because of the new arrangement with your job, and so we've been handling it. But I just know that everything will work out eventually, and we'll be. This is going to be an interesting story to tell. I'm an English teacher, so I'm always thinking about narratives, and it's one of those narratives that I imagine we will tell our children and about the first year of our wedding. We got married in Nigeria. How was that?
It was ordained. Remember we had it wasn't originally the plan.
No, it was not the plan.
Yeah, we were supposed to go home and do the knocking and introduction.
And then
the day before, the parents called us and were like, you're getting married.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know. We were always planning to go to Nigeria. That was a thing we were going to do. We go every couple of years or so, and the idea was for us to check on the house that my dad is building. And so it was already planned, March, whatever. It may have been this actually, like to the years of the date. Like this is probably around the same time. And I proposed to Ofunne, which is another interesting story to tell. And I proposed to her. That's funny. I proposed to Ofunne because Ofunne told me it's okay that if you don't talk to my dad first. And so I said, okay. Remember that story? Anyway, so I did it, and then the Nigeria trip was, I think, the next month, and we thought, okay, let's have a proper introduction to your family, my family, and that was the plan. And then I remember the trip. I want to say a day before, my dad was like, make sure you bring cash. And I was like, why? Like, why? He's like, just make sure you bring cash, just in case you bring cash. Like, he's like, how much? He's like, however much you want to bring. And I was like, it was just interesting. I was like, I don't know. And then we get to Nigeria, and like maybe a couple of days before, my dad goes, you do understand you're getting married, right? And I was like, what?
Huh?
Like, I thought we were doing an introduction. He's like, so we, her dad and my dad, we talked about it, and we think we should do everything together. Everything should happen together.
Yeah.
And I remember I called you, and I was like, do you know we're getting married in a couple of days? You're like, yeah.
Basically.
And I think that was a really good test of our, I mean, there's so many things to talk about, from talk about God, like Cape Town and all that. But I remember thinking, like, I think for some people it'd be like, oh no, I don't want to get married. No. To me, it was like, cool. like I remember being like, oh, this is amazing. And that's what I was like, all right, let's do it, because I felt nothing. I felt like excitement.
Yeah.
And I wanted the procedure to go on. And so it was just a really good check to be like, gut check, like, you were ready for this? Because I was so ready for it at that moment. What about you? How'd you feel when you realized that you're about to get married?
Well, like I said, my journey, once the whole spiritual thing happened, was like, it was just all boom, 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 boom. The timing was perfect. I had not planned it, but then I was like, well, when you planned to be in Nigeria at the time, you didn't know, we knew of each other, but we weren't even really dating.
No.
So the plan, you happened to, like, you made that trip. You gotten engaged right then. It worked out perfectly because our parents were there, and yeah, it just, I don't know, it's just all flowed. Easy peasy.
And that is the running narrative of our partnership. I mean,
I will say though, when we were actually taking the vows at the civil courthouse, I was like,
yeah, she was shook. If you look at all the photos from that time, her face looks like. Meanwhile, I'm like smiling, like
I wasn't ready.
Photos and all her pictures, she looked like her smile looked a little fearful. That was interesting.
That was a surprise, but go ahead.
Listen, we're talking about stories. Got to talk about Cape Town. We can't talk about. We're talking about what being married. We have to talk about Cape Town, South Africa, how that came to be. That's a really interesting story that probably, I don't know if a lot of people know. Let's get into it. I'll say from my perspective, and you can tell from your perspective, because they differ.
Oh God. Okay.
So that summer, I was on this, like, I'm traveling the world.
The whole story?
No, okay. Not the whole story. I'll tell you, like, the podcast version.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Anyway, on that summer, I wanted to travel the world. That summer, I just felt this desire to step out of my comfort zone. I started running races. I started doing like 5K, 10K kind of things. I did a bike race, all that thing. And I was like, the next step is just to travel. And so I booked a trip to Thailand. I booked a trip to Cape Town. And Cape Town was supposed to be like a full-on work trip, and because they had a conference about design thinking, and with my class that I created, the new community project is all about design thinking, and I wanted to go for work purposes, and so at the time, Ofunne and I were like talking, like we met each other, we went on a couple of dates, and I told her, I said I am going to Cape Town this summer, and
Tell the truth, Chamber Devil.
I said that's all I said. All I said, like, I'm going to Cape Town. Like, if you find yourself in Cape, that's what I said. I remember saying something like this. If you find yourself in Cape Town, you should come on, because I think the hotel I got is 2 bedrooms, and so I think you can come and stay in one of the bedrooms. But I didn't take it as like an invitation. It was just more like, something nice you say, like, oh, if you find yourself in Cape Town, like, well, why would you find yourself in Cape Town? I just thought, like, it's a safe thing to say. And so, but she took it immediately, like, oh, I can go to Cape Town. And I was like, and it started snowballing, and I couldn't stop it. It was like, she's like, oh, I can go. Let me check these things, and I can figure it out where I can come. And I was like, next thing you know, I hung up that phone being like, is she coming to Cape Town? And then I quickly, like, really tried to dissuade her from going. And I was like, I think, a colleague of mine wants to go to Cape Town now, and it'll be inappropriate. It's a work trip. Like, I don't want to get in trouble. And it's silly, like, we just started dating. Why would we go on a trip? Like, that's a huge commitment. And she was so adamant, like, no, it's gonna be cool. Like, it's gonna be amazing. And I've been like, no, like no. Then I got home, and then I almost done my version, because I know Ofunne's version is different. And I went home, I think after the California trip, I was in California, and I was like, oh well, like, she's coming, whatever. And I just started to be like, all right, just kind of like almost warming up to it, like, because she wouldn't let go of it. And so I started to be like, kind of like looking forward to it. So I went to Cape Town. And the conference was canceled. Like, the design thinking thing is canceled. They're like, we can't do it this year. We're postponing it. So now I'm in Cape Town. The thing is canceled. I'm like, oh my God. So I started just like having fun. Like I'm already here now. I'm not going back home. And so I started like booking my own things. And for the first week, and Ofunne came next week. And Ofunne, when I saw her on the airport, was visibly scared about being in Cape Town with this man I started dating. But we ended up having a really good time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my version.
Yeah. Well, so basically he's trying to say that I forced myself on this trip.
Yes.
Lies. I heard him invite me on his trip in a so casual way. He had talked about how it would be cool if I went, because he had this big old place. It was like 2 bedroom, 2 bath. We'd have our spaces, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this sounds cool." And so then I thought, "Oh, okay. I've always wanted to go to South Africa." And so then I was like, "Well, what if I just came?" He was like, "Oh, for real?" I was like, "Yeah." The end. But then he did try to like tell me later on his colleague was gonna go. After we'd already made plans for me to come to this big old place that he was staying in, and I thought, oh yeah, it would be a great idea. Then he tried to say his friend was coming. Then his friend ended up not coming. I bought my ticket. I went on that trip, and the place was not a big old place like he claimed. Yeah, but he's right. Like, I didn't see any problem with us going. We hadn't been dating that long, and I didn't think of it as an issue, like us going on a trip. And then it wasn't until literally the moment the plane landed that I freaked out, and I was like, "What am I doing? Like, oh my gosh, it's such a big deal. Why did I think this was not going to be a big deal?" I was literally the last person to come out of the airport, because I lingered, I waited, I prayed, and he was like waiting for me outside the airport. Anyway, at that point, he'd already been relaxed to the idea, which is great, because we basically switched roles.
Yeah,
I was cool in the beginning. He was nervous. Then he was cool. I was nervous. And then it was supposed to be a trip that we had, because we live on 2 different coasts. We never really hung out that much. And it was like that trip where I started to see what a wonderful person that you are.
Yeah, I feel like we needed to go on that trip. You would think it would have been a disaster, right? We've been like 2 dates in. You would think whose third date would be an international trip? But it was so chill. Like even when I think about it, how much fun we had. Like the food we ate.
Yeah, it was cool.
We went on safari. It was cold as this right now.
Oh
It was just a lot of fun and easy. It felt very, very easy. And I just knew then, like this is good, and I needed that assurance. I'm sure I'm just thinking as we're talking, some of our viewers and listeners want to know, how the heck did we start dating when we live on two different coasts? Like, how did that even happen? This has to be like the shout out to our friend Nicole, right?
Mm-hmm. So I'd always known about you since I'd known about Nicole. And Nicole's my friend from law school. And so she would always like nudge me a little bit, like, oh, I have this friend named Shitty. But then you seem to be in relationships, because she would talk ish about like the girls you would be with. But then she'd be like,
you're getting real comfortable now.
Sorry. Be like, he's like Nigerian. Oh, sorry. I did chop that.
Not really.
Okay. Wonderful things. And so then one day, you happen to be coming to, you gotta tell him the story about how, like, this is so, because I'm now in a full-blown relationship with God. In a relationship, I started to feel like it was time to get married, like, you could just know, like, and so I had said a prayer, and I said, okay, like, God, I don't have like a resume. It's not like I can be like, I've chosen right. I hadn't even been in love by that time. Mm-hmm. And I said, look, like, you made man and woman. Like, you could have just made man or woman, but there's a reason why you made two. Mm-hmm. Like, I want that reason. Like, because I just want that reason. Mm-hmm. There was a reason for the two, and I want the kind of partner that would solidify that plan. Yeah. And so I literally heard God tell me to write the specs. I had to Google specs because I was like, what? So I get specifics of how you build like cars or models and everything. So I wrote down, I wrote single space, like, hey, like, flip the page, wrote more. There was nothing I left unturned. And then like months later, you happen to get an email from someone this woman who was like, I need you in LA because I want you to, talk about this potential program. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, Nicole then invited everybody to come hang out because she got it in her head that she needed to set us up. Mm-hmm. And then this program thing ended up not materializing, but it had been the channel or vessel for us to meet. Yeah. And we had 2 meetings because you kept going back to those meetings in LA. And then I ended up coming to New York for something else. Yeah. And I never go to New York for my friend's wedding. And we met up then too for your birthday. And you fell in love with me, I think, on that day.
That's true. I mean, I don't know. But yes, it is true that it is true. Yeah, I had to go to LA to these meetings. And I was in LA maybe 3 times because of that. And each time I met up with Ofunne. And the first times I was like, I'm not dating anybody in LA. I live in New York. That's crazy. But I would come back again. And I'll have these like really strong experiences. And they're just like, well, maybe, like, like, what would that look like, and then by the third time I was like, let's do, and so I never in a million years thought that I would do that. The trip, the meeting with the opportunity to expand Newcom was the only reason why I was in LA, and for Nicole to kind of orchestrate that at the time I thought it was like, it's silly, that would never happen. So it's really crazy that this is where we are today. So we thank Nicole for that. But yeah, it goes to show, this whole podcast, what I'm trying to explore is our narratives and how our stories kind of evolve over time and how it shapes us and creates who we are today. I always tell my students that we are living texts, right? We are constantly editing and constantly kind of putting things together to figure out who we are as people, how we want to show up in the world and kind of claim our identity. And so in a lot of ways it happens without you even knowing. It just happens, or God knowing. And that's pretty much the story of us, you know? It's like something I never really expected, but the story was being written. And, you know,
Yes.
and here we are today. So anyway, I guess we're wrapping up a little bit here. So we started from a dream of wanting to be a criminal lawyer. You know, you went to law school. That was wild, crazy. You went into retail. You went back to Texas. You did the creative writing classes. A spark happened. You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna write. You wrote this novel that's being edited, and she's finished it, and she's really working through the process of getting that published. Super exciting about that. You go back to LA. You get the really bomb job that you're in right now. You met me, a bomb person, and now you're navigating that. Moved to New York City. And you were navigating this long distance thing. Eventually, the water! Look at the waves. I hope you can hear that in the background. We're navigating that. You're eventually going to move full time to New York. What do you want next?
To go to Disney World. I think that's what you get when you win.
Yeah.
What do I want next? I want all the visions and dreams that I've seen, the things that God showed me, all the greatest of all these things to happen. Yeah. There's so much like potential, and I just want to now manifest it.
Yeah.
So, because I've been building for years.
Yeah.
For years. Years. And so now it's time to harvest.
Ooh. What a good place to end. Oh. What I want?
Oh, yeah.
What I want? Well, I love you. And I'm super excited. I told Ofunne this last week. I used to be super into tech. Like I bought all the iPads. I bought iPad 1, iPad 2, iPad Air. I bought Air 2. Like I was super into that. Anything new techie, I bought it because that's what I was passionate about. And slowly but surely, I love tech. Right? I have a $1,500 speaker. I'm not afraid to tell you all this. That I bought a couple years ago, 4 years ago. But slowly but surely, it doesn't move me in the same way it did before to open up a new piece of iPhone, you know? Increasingly, what I love is building a home. Like, my newest obsession, she'll tell you, my newest obsession is tea kettles and like making coffee and making tea and like organizing things. like that to me is my new passion. And so what I want is to build that with you, build that home with you.
Aww.
And that's at the foundation. Like first and foremost, I have a strong foundation, a strong home. And I want to continue to serve. And right now, I'm excited to do that as a dean, as a teacher. But I'm exploring ways that I can amplify that. And perhaps through this company I just started, perhaps through this podcast, this video that you're watching. I'm just looking for more ways that I can really allow people to see that they are living texts, that this community are living texts, and that if we want to change our world, we must first look inward and change ourselves. And we must then look at the humanity of our communities, not just default into kind of tribal behavior, but really thinking about who is your common man, who is your common woman, and get to know their stories. And then from there, we can really create more meaningful and mindful impact. And I really do think that if more people thought in that way, we can have, I think, better communities. And so I want to spread that word. And I've been presenting all across the country talking about it. And I will continue talking about it, even though it scares me every time I have to do it. But I'm going to keep doing it because I just feel strongly in my heart that's the way we're going to change the world. So strong home foundation between you and I want that first and foremost. And I think once I can, get that and really affirm that, I want to extend out into the world. So that's what I want.
Sweet.
I thank you so much for being my very first guest.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm so hoping the sound is recording this. I'm gonna keep it really real with y'all. If you're hearing this, thank God, because the microphone is down here, and it appears on. It is on. Good. Anyway, thank you so much. I love you very, very much. and let's enjoy our Saturday.
And Herdsman coming soon.
Oh my God, the Herdsman! Oh, we gotta put your details out, and you can follow you on Instagram on
Yes, at theherdsman.novel. Herdsman, HERDSMEN.
.novel.
Yes.
All the information will be below in the details. You can follow me at I am Chitty. Details are below, and also the company, which is the company I just started a couple of months ago. All right, let's go inside and get warm.
Yeah.